July is the month that exposes every mistake you made with your hostas in spring. The plant that looked spectacular coming out of dormancy, lush, vivid, dramatic, is now showing brown edges, holes in the leaves yellowing from the base, or that strange streaking pattern that appears between the veins and neve. Our quite goes away. And most gardeners respond to these symptoms the same way. They water more, they fertilize, they cut the damaged leaves off and hope for the best. Every one of those responses is wrong for at least one of those symptoms. And in some cases, specifically with the streaking pattern I just described, acting without knowing exactly what you're dealing with can spread a problem to every hosta in your garden before summer is over. July hosta care isn't about pushing growth. It's about protection. Protection from heat, protection from pests, and protection from the mistakes that look like help but are actually making things worse. In this video, I'm walking through exactly what your hostas need this month, exactly what they don't need, and the one habit most gardeners can't seem to break in July that quietly costs them the rest of the season. Before we get into it, drop your growing zone or region in the comments. Hosta care in July looks completely different in a cold northern climate than it does further south, and I want everything here to actually be useful for where you're standing right now. 1. Water deep and keep it off the leaves. Hostas have fleshy roots that need consistent moisture below the soil surface, not a daily sprinkle that wets the top inch and evaporates before it ever reaches the roots. In July heat, that shallow surface moisture disappears within hours. The root system never gets what it needs, and the plant responds with symptoms most gardeners blame on something else entirely: browning tips, afternoon wilting, a general loss of vigor as the season wears on. A good baseline is about an inch of water a week, delivered in 2 deep soakings rather than several light ones. That baseline isn't enough everywhere, though. Hostas under trees compete with roots that grab moisture first. Hostas under roof overhangs never get rain at all, and hostas in containers dry out fast because there's simply less oil to hold onto anything. Check the soil a few inches down. If it's dry at that depth, the plant is already stressed, even if the surface looks fine. And water the soil, not the leaves. Water sitting on foliage in the evening creates ideal conditions for slugs and foliar disease. Morning watering on the leaves is fine. It dries before nightfall. Evening watering on the leaves invites both problems at once. Aim at the root zone every time. 2. Check your shade before you assume anything else. The most common hosta symptom in July isn't a pest and isn't a disease, it's sunscorch. And it's routinely mistaken for a watering problem because the two can look similar at a glance, which leads people straight to the wrong fix. Scorched leaves show bleached, papery patches, usually where the leaf gets the most direct afternoon sun. That damage is permanent. The tissue doesn't recover, but the plant itself is fine, and new leaves emerging from the crown will come in healthy once the light problem is fixed. Here's the part that catches people off guard. The shade your hosta had in spring isn't necessarily the shade it has now. As the sun's angle shifts through summer, spots that got soft, dappled morning light in April can be sitting in direct afternoon sun by midsummer, with nothing about the garden itself having changed. Blue-leaved hostas are the most vulnerable to this. The waxy coating that gives them their blue color gets physically broken down by direct sun exposure, and once it's gone, that color doesn't come back until fresh leaves emerge the following spring. Afternoon sun on a blue hosta isn't just cosmetic damage. It strips away the exact trait that made the variety worth planting in the first place. Gold and yellow varieties handle limited morning sun well, and often develop richer color with a bit of light. But sun after midday is a different story, and in warmer zones it pushes even tough varieties past their limit. If your hostas are showing scorch, look at exactly what's happening in that spot between noon and 4 p.m. That window decides whether a location works long-term or quietly fails. 3. Refresh the mulch, but keep it off the crown. The mulch you laid down in spring has been compressing and breaking down all season, and July is when it needs a top-up. 2 to 4 inches of organic mulch, shredded bark, shredded leaves, pine needles, leaf mold, does 3 jobs at once. It keeps the root zone cooler than the air above it. It holds moisture between watering so you're watering out as often and more effectively, and it evens out the soil temperature swings that stress roots during the hottest stretch of summer. But here's the mistake that costs people healthy plants every year. Mulch piled directly against the crown, where the stems emerge from the roots at soil level. That creates warm, damp conditions that crown rot thrives in, a fungal problem that can destroy the base of the plant underground before you ever see a symptom above the soil. So by the time it collapses later in the season, the damage has been done for weeks. Pull the mulch back so there's a clear 2 to 3 inch gap between it and the base of the stems. Let it do its job everywhere else, but keep the crown itself dry and open to air. 4. Get ahead of slugs before they take the whole leaf. Irregular, ragged holes scattered across the leaves, not clean cuts, not tidy circles, are slug damage, and it's happening at night while nobody's watching. Slugs feed after dark in cool, damp conditions, which is exactly what a shaded hosta bed provides in July. During the day they hide under leaves, pot rims, boards, and rocks, so you only ever see the aftermath the next morning. The cheapest, most effective control costs nothing but a flashlight and 5 minutes. Go out an hour after sunset, catch them actively feeding, and drop them into soapy water. Do it 3 nights running while damage is active, and you'll knock back the local population significantly, right when they're most exposed. On top of that, stop wetting the foliage in the evening, clear away boards or debris near your hostas, and improve airflow by thinning nearby vegetation that keeps the air still and humid. 5. Deadhead spent flower stalks. Once you know what you're giving up, most hostas bloom in June and July, and hummingbirds and bees genuinely use those flowers, so if you're gardening for wildlife, there's real value in leaving the stalks up through the full bloom. Once flowering is truly finished, though, a spent stalk left standing is putting the plant's energy into seed production instead of into the root system, and crown that determine how well it comes back next spring. Once the last flower on a stalk fades, cut it back cleanly at the crown. It takes seconds per plant and redirects that remaining energy where it actually helps. 6. Stop fertilizing after July. Established hostas growing in soil with decent organic matter and an annual layer of compost usually don't need supplemental fertilizer at all. They're not heavy feeders, and their natural pace of growth is well supported by compost alone. If you've been feeding through spring and early summer, July is the cutoff. Fertilizing after this point pushes tender new growth right as the plant should be starting to prepare for dormancy, and that growth won't harden off before cold weather arrives, making it the first thing damaged by an early froze. Container hostas are the one exception. One light, balanced feeding early in the month is fine, since containers deplete nutrients faster, but nothing after that. 7. Know what you're actually looking at before you treat it. Before you do anything to a struggling hosta, identify the problem correctly, because treating the wrong issue wastes time at best and makes things worse at worst. Slug damage shows as ragged holes, sometimes with visible slime trails in the early morning, and appears overnight. Sunscorch shows as bleached, papery patches with no holes and no slime, concentrated where afternoon sun hits hardest. Foliar nematodes cause yellow-brown streaking that runs precisely between the leaf veins, because the pest travels through the water film inside the leaf tissue. If you see this pattern, don't compost the leaves, bag them for the trash. Switch immediately to base-only watering, and disinfect any tool that touched the plant before it touches another one. Hosta virus X shows up as mottled, ink-bled color around the veins, puckered or twisted leaf texture, and ring spots. There's no treatment. A confirmed plant needs to come out entirely and go in the trash, never the compost pile, and every tool that touched it needs to be disinfected with undiluted hydrogen peroxide before it touches anything else. Neither of these last two looks like what most people assume, neither responds to more water or fertilizer, and neither resolves on its own, so correct identification matters more than speed. Your July checklist: water about an inch a week, at soil level only, never on the foliage, never in the evening. Check your shade specifically between noon and 4 p.m. Refresh mulch to 2 to 4 inches, but keep it clear of the crown. Handpick slugs at night on 3 consecutive evenings when damage is active. Deadhead spent flower stalks at the crown. Stop fertilizing entirely after July. And identify leaf symptoms correctly before treating anything. Slug damage, sunscorch, nematodes, and virus X each call for a completely different response. July isn't the month to push your hostas. It's the month to protect them, and the plants that get protected through this stretch of stress are the ones that come back strongest next spring. Let me know in the comments, what does your hosta look like right now, and where are you gardening? I read every comment, and they shape what I cover next.